sales of gun whips.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome, everybody. I am going to be doing some drawing, so I figured I was going to listen to a podcast. Nothing's live over on gun channels at the moment, so I'm putting an option out there. People that want to listen. So we're listening to a podcast from a place called, I think it's called Q. I don't know if it's called something else. I've never heard of them, but I have heard of Soldier Systems Daily. It's a blog, I guess, for the firearms industry, but from a very interesting, unique perspective. And there's an interview that'll give us some insight into that. So that's what we're going to be listening to, and I'm going to be doing some drawing here for the for a project over on Gun Channels. So without any further ado, here we go. Oh, by the way, this is completely rogue. I might be getting kicked off the internet for this. Hopefully they don't sue me.
You want to ask? 14th podcast. Here, they're all number 14 because Ethan said he read somewhere where the average podcast lasts 14 minutes dead. So they're all 14. So this is Kevin Brittingham from Q. I'm here with my buddy Eric Graves, who first time I met, I thought he was Zach Galifianakis. It's a true story 10 years ago. He runs SSD, which I realized today, I've never heard SSD actually, but Soldier Systems Daily. So one of my favorite blogs, Eric and one other guy, my favorite parts of the firearms media, my favorite people who've been friends with for a while. And if probably most people that listen to this have seen this blog.
Well, name the other guy too.
So yeah, Rob Curtis. So he's at Recoil now. When I met him, he was employed by the Army. He was and did the blog and stuff for the Army Times. I forget what it's called.
Gear Scout.
Gear Scout?
Yeah, Rob used to run Gear Scout.
Gear Scout.
Okay. Rob and I are old friends. We've been friends for quite a while, for years.
Yeah. So you're here in New Hampshire doing a few different things, which is really cool. So anyway, how you been? What's going on?
I'm doing pretty well. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Eric Graves, and I run Soldier Systems Daily. I've been doing that for just over 10 years now, publishing every day. It's funny,
10 years.
So it's Soldier Systems Daily, and we talked about this a little while ago, so I'll tell everybody the whole why it's Soldier Systems Daily and not just Soldier Systems. So for about the first, 6 months or so, it was Soldier Systems. And then I realized our initials were SS. And of course, even 10 years ago, I realized that wasn't going to work. So I added in the daily because I was writing 7 days a week. And I have published now for 10 years every day for 7 years. For 10 years, 7 days a week. Now,
have you ever skipped a day?
One time.
Are you serious?
The first year.
One time in 3,650 days.
So, we started in May of 2008.
Yeah.
And in the summer of 2008, I was at a family reunion at a state park, and there was no internet access, so I missed that day. So that was in the summer.
That's when you started too.
Right. So I mean, you got to consider I've been doing this, every day and multiple stories a day.
It's incredible. I think when I talk to my fiance or other people, for me, and this is probably maybe to some degree you. I love what I do so much, and it is work, but I know what it takes to be successful. And so, just realizing this summer with my children, oh my God, most of the time I work 16-hour days. I might fit in an afternoon skate session with my son or something like that. But I work a ton. But when you do something that you love, it's you just work every day. You work all the time. And yeah, I don't think that's like optimum for some people in my personal life, but it's just the way
Well, it's part of our family rhythm. I mean, at this point, my kids are used to it. My wife's used to it. You literally wake up, you know, and you develop a rhythm that most days you follow.
Yeah.
Because I put the next day's website to bed before I go to bed every night.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I work on it during the day, and the plan is, you know,
I'm more organized.
Yeah. So kind of the publishing rhythm of Soldier Systems Daily is 7 articles a day, Monday through Friday.
That's so many.
3 on Saturday and about 5 on Sunday. So we average 42 a week.
That's great.
And when I say we, that's really an air quote we, because I publish about 90 to 95% of what is on the website. And I'll get into that in a second. But I want kind of people to understand how the website
most stuff
runs.
is you, right? As opposed to like T-Tag or Firearms Blog or others that I like.
I don't have a lot of contributors.
Yeah, they have a lot of contributors, so it's not one guy.
Yeah.
So Soldier Systems Daily is Eric Graves.
Yes, for the most part. And
that's interesting.
And my son helps out a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
He writes a little bit for me, and then I have regular contributors. And I'll talk about it in a second, but I want to kind of get into this rhythm of Monday through Friday. So everything is run off of Greenwich Mean Time because I travel all around the world all the time. I'm constantly on the road, so it's a constant that I can plan when things are going to publish.
Yeah.
And so normally what you'll see is a 6 a.m., a 9 a.m., a noon article. That's East Coast Standard Time, or well, whatever East Coast is, because right now it's East Coast Daylight Time. So 6, 9, 12 East Coast Time, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. The reason we stop at 8 p.m. is because that's midnight Greenwich. So it puts me to bed, and then I get, then the next morning the website starts over again at 6 a.m. So 7 articles a day, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
What you'll see generally is the 6 a.m. story is usually something that I want the East Coast to see. So I am targeting generally government with my articles. So I talk about Soldier Systems Daily is a business to government kind of website where I talk about business and government. It's an industry daily. So if there's a new product coming out that I think government should see, then I'm going to put that at 6 a.m. If it's something that I think that it's really important for consumers, a lot of times I'll put that at 9 a.m. because think about how the U.S. clock works. 9 a.m. on the East Coast, 6 a.m. on the West Coast, and everything in between. And so I'm leaving it up for 3 hours. That's going to get a lot of eyeballs throughout that, 3 hours.
Okay, we talk about like government, procurement, that kind of stuff. What about your background? What led you?
How I got into this whole mess.
Yeah, so that explains a lot more. It was like wait a second. I like yours because I've been involved in that for a long time. Kind of who you aim a lot of your content at, and then the Firearms blog because of also, those are the two parts of the industry I've been involved in, the commercial and then the government side.
And
so the Firearms blog,
they do a lot of government stuff too, which is pretty cool.
Well, they've evolved a bit.
Yeah, because there's so much smaller development going on right now in U.S. military, but internationally as well. So how I ended up in this whole thing is I spent 21 years in the military. About half my career I was an enlisted guy in the Army, and the other half I was an officer in the Air Force. When I was enlisted in the Army, I served as a radio operator in a long-range surveillance detachment in Germany. Back during the Cold War, I speak German, French, and Haitian Creole. I served as a signal intelligence specialist with 3rd Special Forces Group for many years. Then when I took a commission in the United States Air Force, I was an intelligence officer. I was the first intelligence officer with Air Force Special Tactics. I served at the 720th Special Tactics Group. I served at the 21st STS, the 23rd STS. When the war began, coincidentally, in September of 2001, I moved from Pope Air Force Base with the 21st STS to Special Operations Command Pacific. So the early part of the war I spent in the Philippines and supporting the war on terror in the Pacific Rim. There was a lot of stuff going on that most people don't know about. It was kind of the
It hasn't got a lot of news.
No, I never got a lot of news. There was a lot of stuff, kind of second front stuff. Some interdiction of weapons of mass destruction from North Korea to other parts of the world. And so we support a lot of operations there. I ended up serving as the science advisor there, working on new technologies and novel ways of finding bad guys so that people could kill them. And that nominated me for a special assignment to an organization that's classified. And I spent my last several years in the Air Force in the Washington, D.C. area in an organization that kind of doesn't exist, doing special technology work for the government. And then I retired in 2006. I went to work for a small DoD contractor, working for DARPA at the time for about a year. And then a small company started up and they asked me to come to work for them down in at Blackwater. And the company was called Air Systems Group. I was the first employee there. And I worked on their armored vehicle program. I did test and evaluation work for Blackwater. I blew up armored vehicles. I shot them with everything from 20 millimeter on down, and built a lot of IEDs and blew them up, and EFPs and blew them up, and built a really cool armored vehicle. But unfortunately, Blackwater kind of found themselves at odds with the Obama administration, and became Blackwater was no longer the flavor of the week with the Obama administration, and they ended up laying a bunch of people off in the spring of 2009, and that's when I got laid off. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my whole life.
So you've been doing the blog
for about a year. So I started in spring of 2008. So I'm like, I've always loved doing things, they're soldier centric. I'm always interested in, like armor systems and small arms.
Yeah, it's clear, like you love the gear, like following the blog.
Yeah.
You love the gear, you love all of that stuff.
Right. And I was a Boy Scout growing up. I used to camp a lot.
It's clear in the blog.
And I was always in some special units, so we always had better equipment. So I was always interested in that, and I was always interested in ways to get more and more equipment out to soldiers, better equipment. So I'm like, I did some professional writing when I was still in the military. And I decided I wanted to start writing again. So initially I'd written for print when I was in the service, but print is very unwieldy. Print takes a long time for it to go to print.
Yeah, sure.
And if they screw it up, it's hard to do a retraction. So I was at a conference out in San Diego when I was a contractor, and I had picked up a Wired magazine, and I was on a red eye flying back to the East Coast, and I started reading it. And they had this article about a blog called Gizmodo, and it was this technology blog. And I started reading through it, and I decided that I was going to become the Gizmodo of the tactical world.
So the gear queer for us, guys.
Right, exactly. So I went home, and I was getting ready to go to SOFIC 08, and I started writing, I'm going to write an article a day anonymously about new gear and kind of the industry. And so I came up with an idea for a blog, and I started writing it. And I'm going to write a story a day, just keep myself off the street. And it went pretty well. And after a while, people started reading it. I didn't publicize it anywhere, but guys started picking it up somehow. And folks would come to me and say, Eric, every time you write about our company, we're making money. We'd like to buy some advertising. But at the time, that company I worked for had some intellectual property clauses in my contract, and I didn't want them to get a piece of the action. So I went, I can't take any money from you. I'm just going to do this for the enjoyment of it and keep my finger in the pie. And so in the spring of 2009, when they came to me and said, hey, Eric, we're going to have to let you go. Blackwater's having some monetary issues. So you can either move back to the D.C. area and go work on a different contract, or we're going to let you go. I went, go ahead and let me go. Now, the ironic part about all this is the week they tell me that they're going to lay me off is the week after SHOT Show 2009 in Orlando. So I was at SHOT Show. I could have probably found a job.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I was there for work. And I probably could have found a job with somebody if I didn't know this was coming up. it's probably once again a blessing because
Yeah, and
I
then you
did
go be your own boss.
right.
Your
So
own thing.
I went to my wife and I said,
Wait, I see where you're going, and I think, yeah, that is cool because I think you have an influence on the industry. Like I follow, and I want an opinion on this when you're done with your story, but I follow 2 blogs daily. Like I look at several, but I follow your blog and I follow the Firearm blog.
sure.
And then I follow an MMA blog and just a science blog, but it's separate. So in our industry, those are the only 2 I follow daily. I look at a couple others, like maybe once a week. But you know, it's interesting, me being in the industry now for almost 30 years, forums were a thing, and now forums are so fucking ridiculous, and I hate them. And it's interesting seeing the blogs, and even seeing the difference between your blog, knowing you, your personality, you being really the primary or only contributor, and the others being still companies that have multiple contributors and all that. But how different times have changed, where it's like MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, Snap. And now, you know, me having kids, me having to learn shit from them. But how also, even professionally, it's like their forums were very important. And now, like, I don't even look at them and following a couple blogs.
Well, the problem with forums is they become so tribal.
We talked about one earlier, like Sniper Tide, which there's some good info on, but people get so entrenched.
Every forum, I don't care if it's military, firearms, you know, off-roading, scuba diving,
all
you know, porn, whatever. You know, you get these people who are kind of, you know, entrenched there, and they have their favorites. And when new people come in or new ideas come in, you know, they want to poo-poo those.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I've said, and
so your platform is way better for.
Well, it's different because I'm a dictator. But you know, on a forum, you know, I feel like they're toxic to business, right?
Yeah.
If you're not in,
totally,
then you know your business gets hurt, and I don't think that's great. So I wanted to build a platform that allowed innovation to, you know, win out. I'm sure there are people who are like, oh, Eric Graves is a jerk because he wouldn't let me say something horrible about Company X, but I don't like drive-by comments.
No, oh my God. Speaking of that, like I had this asshole on our Instagram. So I run our Instagram, and I think we have some other social media, but I've never even been on. And you know, like I don't pay for marketing, for instance. But with our Instagram, this guy said something very insulting. And I don't remember what it was, but it was just fucking ridiculous. Like a comment you would read on a forum. And I deleted his comment. Sure. And he comes back and he posts, how dare you, you know, restrict, regulate, like, what did he say? You know, basically me dictate and censor him is what he said. Right. And it's like, hey, fuck you. This is a dictatorship. I run it.
Right.
You are not going to come on here and be that guy. And like, I deleted you rather than block you as a courtesy. And like, I don't need to send you a freaking email or slide into your DMs explaining you're an asshole. Like, don't do it again. He came back and like, how dare you censor me? And so I just like blocked him right away because like you're the people that like you're what's wrong with the internet.
Well, you know, there are literally websites now that won't allow any comments. In fact, you know, funny thing on my website,
Silencer Co blocks comments.
Hey, I blocked comments. We didn't allow comments for probably the first 2 or 3 years of the website. No, I didn't do it because it just was, I didn't want to deal with it, right? It just, you know, all these people, it was really my forum for me to stand on my soapbox and talk about what I knew and what I felt.
Well, it's so funny that some people feel entitled to be able to comment and on you or a product and even anonymously. Like, that's one part
that's what bothers me.
Like, if you're anonymous, like if you want to say this company is shit or this is wrong or you're stupid, whatever, you should not say that anonymously. For me personally, and I'm not saying that's what you should do for your site, but for me, what I control, you can say whatever you want, but you better use your name if you're going to go and insult people and say things are stupid. Or you better, if you don't want to use your name, and I can understand being anonymous because you're in a, the thing with our industry, if you have a day job and you're in an industry that would punish you because you're interested in our industry, I respect and understand that. I think it sucks, but that's okay. But you better back it up with some science and not because you're some idiot that bought their product and their marketing.
I agree with you 100%. I'm not a fan of some of the anonymity that's offered on the internet, where people aren't held accountable for things they say. When you're just destructive to other companies for no reason, and I've over the time, 10 years, I've published about 23,000 articles. Think about that.
Yeah.
And I get it. I want to talk about that in a second, because there's been some criticism of me over some of those numbers, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, because I think it's important that I address it. But I don't think it's fair when a guy who has no skin in the game, he's just some chucklehead on the sidelines, he wants to go in and hurt a company. And I don't think that's fair to the company when he has there's no substantive content for him to go, this sucks. Well, if you want to say this sucks, tell me why.
Well,
I mean, don't go, some ways that company's, bad. Don't just, do a drive-by comment and say, I don't like Q. Kevin Brittingham's a jerk. Okay.
And I think that's okay. Because to me, like the firearms industry, if you view it as a pie, like our little company right now can service 1% optimistically. Realistically, in a few years, 10 to 20%. A political election, like I say in a lot of the podcasts, like you win 51%, done. Like we probably have like a 70 to 80% rating, which most companies want 100%. I don't give a shit about that. No. You do not have to like me. If you don't want to buy my product because you don't like me, or you don't like Ethan, or you don't like the way I marketed, or I called out Silencer Code because they sucked, or whatever the thing is that I did, that is 100% okay. Don't follow us. Don't buy my product. You hurt my pocketbook. In the end, I can only service a few people. I want like a 70% rating.
Yeah, I can't make everyone rating. I can't make everyone.
And I don't care. Like if I'm making everyone happy, I'm not changing the world. And for me, I'm a product guy. Like I want to innovate. And my innovation and what I believe is important for us is going to make us successful. Successful meaning what I view is making me happy on a daily basis and continue to do what we want and drive innovation the way that I see fit. It's not going to suit everyone, and I don't give a shit. Don't buy my stuff. Don't listen to my podcast. Don't follow my Instagram. Fuck off. Go do the other thing. Like I don't want to be average. I don't want to make everyone happy. I didn't get in the industry to make friends. Me and you and Rob are buddies, and that's cool. Yeah. A lot of the media within our industry, I don't like. And like, just the idea of political election, if you got 60%, it's a landslide. That's what I'm okay with. Like, I don't need everyone to like me.
Fair enough, and I'm fine with that. I don't need everybody to like me either. I mean, early on, I think I was there like, oh, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. But
yeah, of course,
in the end, I've realized that there are people out there who are just flat out toxic.
Yeah, if you go out of your way to hurt someone, it's wrong.
Right.
If you don't like a product because of X, Y, Z, and you can explain it, that's perfectly okay. Yeah. And if that hurts someone's feelings, like I told a member of the media just a couple days ago, emailed me about something, and my response was, your job is to report what you think of the product based on your experience and your knowledge, and explain it. My job is to accept it, and I can have some sort of rebuttal, and maybe it's something you missed. But then also my job is, like, you're pretty educated, so my job would be to correct my product, bring it back to market, offer you an improved product, and you report on that. Yeah, like it's not your job to kiss my ass. It's not my job to say if my product's flawed, it's great, and you're stupid.
Right. Like, I totally agree with that. I think so. As a young military intelligence soldier in the Army, one of the things that I learned was we constantly talked about being timely and accurate. So you wanted to have the information when it was needed, but it had to be right. And so Soldier Systems Daily is run off of the things I learned as a young MI soldier, military intelligence soldier in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because if you're wrong, like,
people die. Yeah, absolutely, right. So that was the standard, right? As an MI officer, an intelligence officer in the Air Force.
Well, I mean, that being part of your character is more important than some like obligation as a journalist.
Right. But so, I mean, it's funny, you know, the business of being an intelligence officer and being a journalist are very similar. You're taking a lot of disparate sources of information, you're distilling them into a relevant story for a customer, for him to consume, so that he's smarter or safer, right?
Well, yeah, I can make a more educated decision.
Right. So I'm doing the same thing I was doing as an MI officer.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I will say with you, I mean, and some other blogs, or, you know, Rob has been influential for me, but with your blog, like, I don't know a lot about, like, gear, whether it be nylon or what do you call those types of accessories, like backpack?
Well, soft, you know, call it soft goods.
Soft goods. All that, yeah, you're real into that shit. So
yeah, I'm always going to factories.
Yeah, yeah, and it's clear by your blog you're super into that. Well, I'm not super into that, but what happens is I really need it. It's just like not my area of interest. Like I like more, I don't know what we call them, like hard goods. Like I like.
No, we consider you. I mean, if from the soft goods standpoint, this is all hard goods.
Okay, so hard goods. So that's what I'm giving to. So I don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on soft goods, but like for instance, like we talked about in a couple of weeks, I'm going to Africa on a hunt for a couple of weeks. I need soft goods. Sure, I don't want to spend my time and energy researching it, but what I do is I can look at your site and you say these things, and you know, like you see this new technology, or there's this test, or there's this award, and that influences me. Like I get stuff because I don't want to go out and test a bunch of shit.
Right, and I think that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about a little earlier, where I talked about, you know, my content. So, it's funny when I first started doing this for a living, you know, someone had written a blog about blogging, and they talked about
there are those. Like
this,
talks about those.
There's a cycle, right? How you go through, and where everything early on in your website is you write it, and then after a while you start sharing content from other people, and so. For my first probably 6-7 years, I didn't share press releases. I hated sharing press releases. And for some reason, for a period of time, there were a lot of really bad ones. They were poorly written. But the more popular I became and the more successful I became, the more press releases I started getting in the email. And I went, why am I rewriting these things? So I decided, I'm just going to go ahead and publish people's press releases, and I'm going to tell people this is a press release. So if you look at Soldier Systems Daily, we have categories. So if you look at the bottom of the website, or I'm sorry, the bottom of an article, you're going to see, like, I've selected a bunch of things like clothing, press release, advertiser. So I'm going to tell you, is this guy an advertiser? I'm going to tell you, is this a press release? I'm going to tell you what kind of product it is, or maybe some kind of new technology.
Or that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because
so
for instance, like, you write about us whenever we have something new, but you know, and I've seen criticism on your website of you being a pawn for me, but like, I've never given you $1.
No, absolutely not.
And
it's so funny. I get accused of some crazy stuff. But you know, I have advertisers flat out. I mean, I got to feed my family.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. But you know, I mean, I think like I obviously take a little more criticism than the average person in our industry.
Well, sure, because you speak your mind.
Yeah, and you know, and I will say with that, sometimes I'm wrong, and if I am, like I like you, try to address it later. Like at least with you. You know, you have the formality and the training of, okay, so you have this source that says this, you have to verify it, and that lends itself to journalism. Like, you know, I don't fucking have that. Like, I think something one day based on my experience and my engineers and my thought process, and I reserve the right to change my mind in 2 years from now. You know, like something's wrong. Like, I remember I called out and I really hurt Magpul's feelings. When they did a 1022 stock, I said, like publicly, and it was just like stupid, but it like gained traction at least where they're like CEO called me, and it was, I hope Magpul's not. It was on like Instagram. I hope Magpul's not turning into Tapco, and you know, it was an asshole thing to say, but at the time it's what I felt, and I said it, and I probably should have waited a day or two before I thought of said it. But in the end, like their 1022 stocks and all, like, are fucking awesome. And I was wrong. They're not doing cheap plastic shit. They're doing great stuff.
They're doing great stuff.
Yeah, and I took, but I mean, I think it's, it's for me, but I take criticism. But, whether it's you or it's Rob Curtis or some other people I deal with, the Firearms blog, who's about guns, they all write good stuff for me. Like, I've never paid any one of them, not a penny.
Yeah.
But, I think we get our shit on merit and the fact that we get press on merit and the fact that we actually innovate.
Okay, so what motivates me are a couple of things. One, innovation.
Yeah.
Love innovation. Two, manufacturing in America. Manufacturing, first, I love manufacturing.
Yeah, no, you're a boy. Like, it's cool shit.
Building stuff in America, and then building stuff to protect Americans.
Yeah.
Well, you don't necessarily anymore build products specifically for the Defense Department or the defense sector.
No, this is like summer school for me.
No, but
I do what I want now.
Americans are protecting themselves. The Second Amendment, I mean, the Constitution writ large is critical for me as an American, right? I mean, it's fundamental for everyone, but it's not. And so, the First Amendment's obviously important because I write for a living, but the Second Amendment, I realize how important it is to our country, and so I'm a big constitutionalist. I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. People get mad at me because I give a lot of money to the NRA every year. Huge supporter of the NRA. They don't feel like it's supporting them enough, and I get that.
Well,
but
I mean,
I don't want to get into the whole NRA thing.
Well,
right
the
now.
NRA thing, like to me too, I have very constitutional disagreements with parts of the NRA, but they're our biggest and best supporter in.
Right, whether we like it or not, they are the biggest gorilla in the neighborhood. Right?
To me, I owe everything to my parents. I do not fucking agree with everything they believe or say or maybe do.
Right.
But I learn from them, and they're my biggest advocates, and they've been my biggest supporter. And I honor them in that respect. I think the NRA is a lot the same way.
But I really don't want to go to the NRA rabbit hole. But my point is that there's a Second Amendment category on my website. So when I talk about how important it is to support the Second Amendment is so important to supporting the defense sector. And I've gone into this whole thing. So there's a big story, that I've written about multiple times where during the assault weapons ban, which was a horrible time in American history as far as small arms development goes.
I remember it. I was there. Yeah.
We were getting, in the Defense Department, I was in the Army. At the time, I was in the Army and in the Air Force. We were getting magazines for
94,
94, right? Through 2004, right?
Yeah.
We finally sunsetted that thing. By the way, people are very critical of the NRA, but the assault weapons ban would not have sunsetted at the end of 10 years had it not been for efforts of the NRA. So we would not have the firearms industry we have today if the NRA hadn't gone around and said, hey, let's let this thing go into that good night.
I want to stop you right there. Also, the NRA, when I developed 300 Blackout at Advanced Armament 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, so we commercialized 300 Whisper. I'm not trying to deny that. There were less than 10 states where you could hunt with silencers because of the NRA.
Oh my God.
Not because of the ASA or Silencer Co. or any other bullshit. Because of the NRA. Now you can hunt in more than 40 states with silencers.
So it's a total flip. So you can hunt in 10 states, now you can hunt in 40, and only 10 you can't.
Yeah.
It's a
100%. I think that's very important. So the NRA...
The NRA does things.
I mean, they've done some dumb shit, but overall, they have been very helpful to the Second Amendment and the American.
And you think about the development of small arms in the United States.
Do you want the Army, like you were in the Army?
Yeah.
Do you want the Army's guns built by China? Like, we need kids. Like my son, I hope he grows up to design guns. Like, if he wants to be a ballerina, he can be a ballerina. We need kids here to grow up to want to design the best small arms in the world, because you can think of phasers and stunners and all this weird shit that you see in sci-fi, but the most elite guys in the world, they still fucking shoot people because we don't drop nuclear bombs or atomic bombs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in World War II destroyed.
The man with the gun is still making things happen in America.
That's right.
Whether he's defending his family, protecting his neighbors, protecting the nation.
The nation, yeah. So we need guns developed in America by Americans,
Absolutely.
built here,
Right.
because everything is the highest quality in the world is built in America for the most
Absolutely.
part, and we need it done. So we need a Second Amendment. We need kids to grow up with guns, to want to grow up with guns.
So a strong Second Amendment is critical to a strong national defense.
Absolutely,
Right.
100%.
And I've said this 100 times, and I'll keep saying it. And so I go back to, I was going to talk about this a second ago, but we kind of got sidetracked a little bit. But when I was in the Army and then in the Air Force, we had really bad magazines for our Beretta pistols. It's because there was no money in it, right? So they went the lowest bidder. Now, think about everything I can have. I mean, we live in an age of plenty.
Yeah.
My God, think about the firearms we could buy, the ammunition we could buy, the optics we can buy,
Oh
the
my
body
God.
armor we can buy,
Night vision, thermal.
everything.
Well, let me ask you this,
Good Lord.
based on that. Okay, so you have more details than I remember or know, or most people, and you know most things before they happen. What is the value of the 320 contract, the SIG contract to replace the M9? What's the SIG 320 called in the military? The
MHS, so modular handgun system.
Okay, so what it's going to be the M.
So M17 is going to be the full-size gun. The M18 will be the compact. Army's buying M17s and some M18s. Marine Corps will probably completely field M18s, a compact model.
All right,
Air Force will probably come.
So what's that contract worth?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I'd have to look it up. Literally, it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
And I think about $500 million.
Right. And you know what?
How many people get shot with a handgun?
It's minimal.
Yeah.
You and I both know. You and I both know.
Look, you complain about the Beretta magazine. I think, why the fuck are we spending $500 million on soldiers having a sidearm? We should give them a better, rifle.
Well,
Or night vision.
No,
or
we absolutely should give a better
actually-
rifle. But in the end, we get
Or
this whole
thermal.
thing about training, right?
Yeah, training.
So
Training would be way better than
there's an
the handgun.
aspirational program right now with the U.S. Army lead, which is next generation squad automatic rifle, and they want to replace.
Wait, is that a rifle or a belt?
Well, this is a convoluted deal, but so the U.S. military wants to replace the M249 SAW and also the M4 carbine. They want to do them about the same time with.
Remember the Mark 23?
Oh God. So yeah, I mean,
That was
Okay.
for those of you listening. That's the HK, the SOCOM pistol, or the Mark 23 pistol, which is like a 6-inch barrel, 45
offensive handgun weapon system.
And it was down select was Colt, and HK was with silencers built by HK.
Multiple
and
companies
Knights,
were
they
in,
ended up
yeah.
switching, and it ends up being an H&K Mark 23 pistol, which is like the most fun to shoot handgun you've ever
Okay.
shot. 45, accurate,
We
with an
had
isometric
those.
silencer. I've never heard of it.
We
I don't
had-
think anyone's ever been killed with one.
No, absolutely not. We had those at 23rd STS when I was there, and it's a boat anchor.
And so they're like, oh, we're going to replace the M4 with this handgun.
It was a
So dumb.
It was a goofy SOCOM program years ago, but you know, new weapon systems. The DoD is going to modernize. I could do a whole podcast about modernization of U.S. small arms, but none of that is possible without a free and open market for guns in America.
Yeah, you have to have commercial, because
All the development
Yeah.
happens here.
the first 85% of my career was military government.
Yeah.
Mostly classified organizations. You cannot make a living or survive or feed 30 families off the money you make from them. So it has to have either big SOCOM, big Army, or more importantly, I believe,
The commercial
market.
Commercial market drives all innovation. You think
Well, I
about
don't say it
all-
drives, but I will say it supports, because I mean, I work with guys at the most elite level, and I think for most companies, commercial market does. And my new company, Q, is a very commercially based company. But previously at AAC, we were not that way, and we worked with a few classified groups that really pushed innovation. They paid for it, and I was able to profit commercially enough to where it made sense for me. Like I made so much money commercially that it made sense for me to support those groups.
Right.
No matter what they wanted.
Well, and so
We did it.
you realize that those organizations, they consume every commodity under the sun.
Oh God,
Computing,
it's so great
weapons,
because you know what was so
protection,
great for me was
mobility.
Small arms was so cheap because mobility is so
right. So they're constantly coming up with, you know, the most difficult environments in the world, and you know the hardest charging people in the world. And, you know, and so they really are the pinnacle of requirements. So yeah, I mean, companies that really want to innovate, they're going to go, I want to build a product for, you know, this organization that exists in the Department of Defense or one of its NATO allies, right, or Five Eyes allies. And so, you know, that I agree, that does drive a lot of very niche-y innovation. But think about just all the products that have been developed for the commercial market. I mean, like I said, I wish I'd have been woke like pre-1986 and as a kid, and knowing that we weren't going to have machine guns forever, and I'd have mowed a lot of lawns and given somebody some money to buy me some machine guns and put them away from me when I grew up. But, you know, we are in the salad days of you know, capability. As a consumer or as a military, I can walk out and get anything. I mean, I can buy anything. Think about the minds that we put against, you know, building innovative small arms, innovative weapons, innovative guns. We just talked to some people earlier today, you and I, who are really kind of behind the whole, you know, pistol stabilizing brace. And think about that. I mean, they have done so much that it's almost made the National Firearms Act for short barrel rifles irrelevant.
Yeah, it's totally irrelevant, and that's called the ATF, because you know, as I said earlier, talking with them, when I got into Class 3 in the early '90s, a Form 4 took 60 days. Now it takes 9 months.
Oh, easy 9 months.
Yeah. So why would you not? Like, I thought the pistol brace, as I think you did, was stupid.
I wasn't impressed.
But now you can cross state lines. You can have a loaded pistol in your truck, and you don't have to wait. Like, there's no excuse for the ATF 25 years ago to be 60 days and now take 9 months.
Well, because nobody was buying guns 60. You know, let's face it, 25 years ago, nobody was buying NFA items. We didn't understand the explosion in the demand for American firearms.
Well, what other industry does a process take, you know, 4 or 5 times longer than 25 years ago? There's no excuse when it's all computer.
Because the government's involved.
Well, there you go.
All right, but let's face it. I mean, look at demand. The sunset of the assault weapons ban resulted in this huge explosion of. Think how many companies make ARs now. I mean, it's America's most popular rifle.
Hundreds, where 10 years ago or 20 years ago it was a dozen people.
I mean, I owned an Oli AR before the assault weapons ban. I have a pre-ban gun still.
When I got into guns, it was Colt, Bushmaster, Olympic Arms. That was probably it.
Yeah, there's one of the, what was it? There was some little company building lowers. I can't remember the name of them, but they were out of spec, right? Because nobody really knew what the spec was at the time, because you know, the Colt TDP hadn't been, you know, kind of proliferated. Yeah, so I mean, now people build better. You know, when you tell me I got a mil-spec gun, I'm kind of laugh a little bit, because everybody can build better than mil-spec now.
Yeah, we got everyone has the drawings.
Look at the way you guys are doing. The innovation is amazing to me. I'm looking at the wall and I'm seeing, you know, honey badger, you know, and I'm seeing a fix. And I just today I took a look at the, you know, how the fix is built, and I'm just amazed. Yeah, you built one. Yeah, I built one. Well, you know, it's just amazing.
You know, I think it's a culture too. Like, I'm not an engineer, but you know, I honor and respect them, and you know, every asshole in the world come up with a good idea, but You got to execute it. And that's why, we're still young and we're small. More than half the employees are degreed engineers. That is very, very rare. Like at Daniel Defense, like I was in a lawsuit with them about a year and a half ago. The head of engineering did not have an engineering degree. That's pathetic. And I think that's pretty common in our industry. Like Gemtech, to my knowledge, has never had an engineer, a degreed engineer employed. Maybe they do now, but they did a few years ago, and I don't know of one. Silencer Co., we see it now. Like we did a new mount, a Plan B to replace their Omega, and now we're doing one for the Saker and their other cans where we sell out within hours because their mount for their silencers is garbage and the cans fly down range and get stuck on the guns. They never had. So Jonathan Schultz, who's one of the founders and owners, he's not a degreed engineer. Like I designed all the mounts at AAC. They are bad. It's because I'm not an engineer. Our workforce here, half the employees are degreed engineers. And I think that's very rare for our industry, maybe not for other industries. And I think you see products now that speak to that. The Honey Badger, something Ethan and I and Robert Silvers did 10 years ago, it's way better now. That's because of engineering. The Fix, like you built one today.
Well, I built that. The young man who helped me, he's an engineer.
He was
right.
the designer.
And he sat down with me and explained why everything was built the way it was on the rifle, and that's impressive to me. Just seeing on an assembly line where a guy understands how the gun is assembled, as well as why it was designed the way it was.
Well, it's assembled based on the way it was designed.
Right.
And then we have to transfer it to be assembled. So the engineers, so for the Fix and the new Honey Badger, so the engineers have to assemble the first.
It's all about scalability, right? I mean, a big company, Colt, Remington, SIG, they're not going to have that same guy down on the line with me, seeing how things are built because they're just bigger companies.
Well,
but I mean, that's an advantage your company has over large companies is that your flash to bang is so fast.
Yeah. Well, I think the Remington 700, they've sold 12 million copies of it. So the Fix, I believe, is the next Remington 700.
Well, you know what? When you sat me down in this building 2 years ago?
Yeah, a little over.
Yeah, and you told me I'm going to replace the 700. I mean, you showed me a drawing. You laid it out on the table.
The gun's not much different.
Right,
Still,
it's not,
that
right.
drawing's still not all.
You rolled that. Me and Rob and a couple other people were here for your launch, and we were very excited for you. And I didn't expect this thing, and you rolled out this drawing for me, and it was the Fix. And you're like, I'm going to build a bolt gun. And I was like, a bolt gun? And I was like, really? And, and it was so funny because I saw the calibers on it and I knew who you were like thinking about. And it's so funny, that to see that. And then down the road, the gun is built and it's real. And I could touch it and I could shoot it. And it's amazing. Just a couple years later, you've got a gun that you've been putting on the street for a while. And not only that, you're looking towards the future already by going, I can scale this up, I can scale this down, I can take this technology, I can introduce new calibers, and I'm starting to learn something, So on the soft good side, the long pole intent is materials, right? On this side, the long pole intent is ammo.
It's ammo and it's mines.
Yeah. And so I've realized that
I've owned both of those. Yeah, I own the smartest guys. Right. I got to own the ammo.
Right. And so I've started to realize that figuring out the best cartridges for whatever that application is, whether it's hunting, meat, hunting animals or hunting humans, there are different cartridges for different applications, and they all do different things. And I didn't appreciate ammo until just a few years ago. And I didn't really appreciate ammo, to be honest with you, as a military guy, until I started shooting 6.5.
Yeah.
6.5 is when I went,
6.5.
wow, that blew my head up. My first time I shot 6.5, I went, holy cow, because I've been saddled with 308 for so long that I was like,
well, I remember my first shot was 6.5. We were out shooting. I'd never heard of it. I went with a pro baseball player who was a friend of mine. This is years and years ago. And I never heard 6.5 Creedmoor. He told me. And so 740 yards, 12-inch plate. He told me what to dial, hit the plate on the first shot.
exactly.
And I was fucking sold.
You know Tom Fuller? You know Tom Fuller?
Yeah, Tom.
Okay, Tom. So Armageddon gear. So I was asked to go out and shoot a pro-am match with him. And we had two of George Gardner's guns.
Yep.
George builds great guns.
Yeah.
And I'd never shot 6.5 before.
Really great guy.
And so I go with Tom, and he goes, we're going to sight in before we start the match. And I go, okay. And so he goes, we're going to shoot 800. We're going to shoot 800. And I'm like, okay, great. And he goes, we're just going to shoot 800. And I go, can I start like at 5 and then work out? Because I'm used to 308, right? He's like, no. Just dial this and you're going to hit it. And bam, it's like a laser. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't do real well on that first PRS match that I shot, but it was like a big awakening for me. Like, wow.
Well,
ammo.
yeah.
You know, when you start to think outside of the DOD 5.56 and you know,
well, I
7.62.
think if you grow up, like, you know, you grew up in the Army, like if you grew up in the military, you're indoctrinated and all this shit. Like, to me, I just think logically. And like killing, if it kills a person, it kills a deer. It's all the same. I thought, you know, 300 Blackout wouldn't exist if it weren't for a classified group in the military.
Mm-hmm.
They asked me to do it. We did it. Remington wouldn't even do it. Hornady did it. And we see the success. But I saw in the commercial market, not just like killing Bin Laden, but it's the modern 30-30. And the AR-15 is the modern lever gun. And it is. Like when I go with all 3 of my children to hunt, I take an AR-15. I can collapse a stock to any length. All my kids can shoot it. We're all good to go. We take one gun. It's very easy. 300 Blackout is a great cartridge. It's not the best cartridge. Like, I like to shoot stuff with 308 better. But if I want a lightweight compact gun and a 30 caliber bullet that fits in an AR and it's super and subsonic, 300 Blackout's the best cartridge. You know, the 6.5 thing, like one of these groups, after I was fired from Remington, my very first thing I did was I went to 9th Sergeant and I built 2 SR-25s and 260. And I took them to these groups and I said, okay, here's an SR-25, so your 308 gun, and now what is it, 1 pound more rather than 3 pounds more than your M4. It has a trajectory of 301 mag, and your hit probability is way better, the recoil is half. This is far better. Now they're all going to that.
Right.
You know, it made sense. But for me, like, I didn't grow up in the Army, so I view things as, okay, you are these classified groups, you have anything you want. Right. Small arms, very small cost. Mobility, all these other things that you explained, far greater cost. Small arms are very small. Like, cost-wise, get whatever the fuck you want. This is better. You have guys that weigh 135, they 5'6", and you got guys that weigh 280 pounds and they're 6'8". Like, this gun now has your hit probability is better, recoil is half. You don't have to buy, you don't have to get free Army ammo. You can get whatever you want. Like, this makes sense. And I think it's the same thing. And I think 8.6 will see the same thing. Like, 8.6 to me, like, I think long range. I love 300 Norm mag. I love 300 Win mag. I love 6.5 Creedmoor. I love 260. I like 300 Blackout. I think it's better than 5.56 in some ways. And I think our new 8.6 Creedmoor or probably 8.6 Blackout cartridge is better because a 12.5-inch barrel, more muzzle energy with supersonic than an 18-inch 308. Subsonic is quiet as a 22, shooting a 350 grain bullet that expands out of a 12-inch barrel, and we are dictating the barrel twist so we can get accuracy with a subsonic long cartridge or long bullet. At distance, we can shoot 1 MOA, and the bullet expands and we can kill shit. That's an advantage. If you want, if you want to kill, like, this is 300 Blackout's big brother. If you want to kill stuff inside of 300 yards, you don't need a 308. You need an 8.6 Blackout. supersonic, subsonic, you pick your cartridge, and we're dictating the twist for accuracy for the subsonic. So we're doing things better than we did initially with 300 Blackout, the lessons I learned.
Well, I think, first off, I want to say that I'm super excited about SOCOM with the 260 Remington and the 6.5 Creedmoor, decision to purchase 6.5 Creedmoar. I think it's a huge leap forward. I believe that 7.62 will go away within SOCOM within the next 5 years for a variety of reasons. But like you championed 300 Blackout 10 years ago, watching you start to work on 8.6 Blackout here in the future, I think is super exciting. And real quick, I want you to kind of talk about, we talked about this earlier, and I want you to discuss this a little bit, this concept of, is it 8.6 Creed or is it 8.6 Blackout? Can you just mention something real quick? Because we need to move forward with this technology. I think it's a great move.
All right. So, so we're talking about 8.6. So, it started out as Ethan and I, as soon as we did 300 Blackout, wanted to do, we knew about 338 Federal, and we wanted to do an improvement on that could be subsonic and supersonic. And we were never given the opportunity at Remington. And so with SIG, we never got there either. Here we did it. And it was 338 Creedmoor originally. And Creedmoor, because we knew Hornady was open to it. We talked to them at SHOT Show a couple of years ago. And the Creedmoor was kind of just a couple things to entice them by using the Creedmoor name to give them more credibility. And then also we were shortening a 6.5 Creedmoor case because we wanted to use that shoulder rather than 338 Federal shoulder. 338 Federal didn't work because the case was too long, so you couldn't use subsonic projectiles. Long projectiles, they wouldn't seat in the case correctly, so we need to shorten it up. 338 Federal is a great cartridge. It's full capacity, 20 round, like whatever, SR25 mags or any 308 mag. But you don't really have a good subsonic option, so shortening the case like a Creedmoor and changing the shoulder angle from 20 to 30 degree makes a lot more sense. Out of a 12.5-inch barrel, we're able to get the muzzle energy greater than a 308 18-inch. And subsonic, we're able to get as quiet as a 22 and load, well over 300 grains and have it be an expanding subsonic bullet. So it's probably, so then we decided, because it's Creedmoor, all the Creedmoor cases are a metric designation and measurement. So you change it to 8.6, which is metric for 338. And then, but now I think, and probably because of Hornady, like he was in charge there, brought up a good point. Like he views it as a precision round, and that
Creedmoor. He looks at Creedmoor as the precision rounds on the market.
Yeah. So calling it Blackout explains what the ammo actually is. And basically, if you want to know what the difference between 300 Blackout and 8.6 Blackout are, it's the same difference as 5.56 and 308.
So can we do something right now?
Sure.
So it's mid-August here. Can we just say from here on out, we're not going to say 8.6 Creed anymore. We're going to say 8.6 Blackout from here on out.
I'll do my best. But I like to keep everyone guessing with marketing.
All right, fair enough.
8.6 Blackout.
But I think 8.6 Blackout does make more sense. And I told you earlier that I think it's really cool that you championed 300 Blackout earlier, 10 years ago, a decade ago. And now you're championing 8.6 Blackout, which is a different round. And a little different application. And I think they'll work together to do different things. Yeah, and it's going to be pretty exciting. And not only that, but you told me earlier that you learned a lot of lessons. When 300 Blackout came out on the market, you were looked at one aspect of it, and it's not just the ammo, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, the barrels, the guns, all the things. And like we need gas gun people involved because the subsonic, supersonic of the 8.6 Blackout cartridge will cycle gas guns. It's also a great bolt gun cartridge. With a 12.5-inch barrel, if you have, especially if you have folding sights, you have a compact gun, you can hunt whitetail with it, you can hunt black bear, grizzly bear, anything you want. So basically 8.6 out of a 12-inch barrel with supersonic, it out to 300 is better than 308. And with subsonic, it's silent. So that's wonderful. So it covers 99% of what people actually shoot. Like if you want to go shoot steel, 308 might be better at distance, and 6.5 Creedmoor is even better than that. So I'm not saying it's a do-all, but it's something that doesn't exist. And where, maybe it didn't make sense 10 years ago. I think it did. But where it makes more sense now and it's more justifiable is, number one, 10 years ago you couldn't hunt, but in less than 10 states with silencers, which we said now you can hunt in more than 40 states, which it flip-flop, which you said. And the other thing is the arm brace, like the SP tactical arm brace, the SIG brace. It wasn't well, it didn't exist then, but a few years ago, it wasn't even accepted. Now it is accepted. The ATF's accepted. The public's accepted. Like every manufacturer there is like Ruger makes it go with an arm brace. And this is a great cartridge for a gas gun, a bolt gun, you name it, a single shot.
I'm really excited about the development of this cartridge and the firearms that are going to shoot it, and where we can use that.
Yeah, it's exciting. To me, I think the difference in me and whether it's J.D. Jones with 300 Whisper or it's, other companies, like to me, I've been poor and I've been rich. I don't know how to completely monetize this thing, and I'm not totally interested in it. Like, I want this program to be successful because
I think it's important that we propel the industry forward.
Yes. Right. And whether it's military or commercial or dry, because now, like, this gives AR-15 builders new life. This gives silencer builders new life. This gives ammo makers, bullet makers. Like, this is something, and I'm not claiming we invented it. Like, you'll get a couple people on your blog and there will be people on forums. Oh my God, I've been loading 300 or 338 Federal for years, and all they did was rip it off. Well, we did rip it off. Like, the idea was very good, but you take a 308, put a 338 bullet in it. Okay. Well, we want to load it subsonic. We need to fit it in a magazine. So we need to shorten the case. 6.5 Creedmoor. There you go. I mean, a lot of the things that I've done in my career are not new. But it's innovative in the sense that these things haven't been put together or commercialized. And I think it's, when we talk about like the fixed rifle, there aren't a lot of arguments for the things that make that gun special. But do I think we invented a lot? No, I think we innovated a lot. And that's why the gun's going to be successful. And that's why my grandkids will probably get, they'll go to college for free. But, I also think it was a very big risk on my part. And I spent millions of dollars because I believe in this program. And that's,
I spend millions of dollars on these trading cards.
Got a lot of money, but
It's a risk.
Well,
I know lots of people with a lot of money.
What kind of difference is a decade ago? You got some military organizations interested in 300 Blackout.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're the ones that told us, like,
so right
the
now,
Navy told us to do it.
Well, but today we've got innovation happening completely in the commercial market.
Because I know it's the right thing.
But I believe that, I'm very interested in the defense sector, and I believe that some of those guys are going to look at this and go, that might be a capability we want.
Well, we know with subsonic 308, a lot of them converted to subsonic 300 Blackout because it made more sense because of the case capacity and SDs. If those guys don't jump on this, they're not paying attention. They're not doing their jobs. 8.6 Blackout is superior in subsonic than 300 Blackout in every way. Other than, one great thing is, like I talked about earlier, we can control the barrel twist. Like when you had 300 Blackout, we didn't really have a standard. So we had 1 in 8s, 1 in 7 twist rifle, 1 in 6, 1 in 5, 1 in 4. 1 in 3 is probably the best, but a lot of the subsonic ammo expands when you turn it faster than 1 in 5. it expands out of the muzzle, so the ammo's not good.
Well, this is a huge thing too, right? Both 300 blackout and 8.6. We're going to have expanded ammunition at that. You know, we don't have that with other calibers.
No.
Other cartridges don't offer that capability.
No.
That's pretty huge.
No, in 308, even if you get a good subsonic expanding bullet, which could maybe be the same as the 300 blackout, most of the guns available are 1 in 10, 1 in 11, 1 in 9 if you're lucky. It's not enough to stabilize subsonic bullets. You don't get accuracy out of it. So people think subsonic ammo is not accurate. No, subsonic ammo can be very accurate, but you have to design from the beginning. So what I think you'll see with 8.6 blackout is 1 in 5, 1 in 4, 1 in 3 maybe. Probably not, but maybe. Barrels from the beginning. There are no standards out there already. So we're able to control these things, which we couldn't with 300 blackout, which I didn't know. Like, I was young, I'd never done this. You know, like, I learned the lessons, and we're trying to control it now. So you'll see Hornady roll the cartridge out at SHOT Show 2020. Next year, starting in the spring, 2019, you will see ammo and guns in some people's hands. They'll kill stuff with it. They'll shoot long range, even subsonic, and we'll see how it goes. Commercially, ammo will be available at that point. Like, the chamber drawings will be available before then. And my goal is that gas guns, and this is just like 300 blackout, you can buy a barrel. You don't have to buy a bolt. Same bolt's your 308. You just buy a barrel. You don't need a new magazine. You don't need anything else. This isn't 6.8. This isn't 6.5 Grendel. Other cartridges that I like. With this, you get subsonic, and you only need to change a barrel. So that's wonderful. So for gas gun and bolt gun, you know, single shot, whatever, it's a great cartridge.
Absolutely. That's very exciting to me to see the future. And we could probably go on and on and on about like small arms development and where you guys are going, but I kind of want to wrap this up if it's okay.
Let's go eat.
And I want to talk about the future. And so I know your children are very important to you, and I want to talk about my future a little bit. I'm very proud of my children.
Yeah.
I have 6 children, and most people don't know that. A lot of folks have met my wife, Shell, at trade shows or, you know, around industry.
6.
But I have 6 kids. My 3 older children are out of the home already. I have a son in the firearms industry. He also runs the blog, tacticalfanboy.com, which is kind of our entertainment website. You know, we talk about airsoft and kind of some of those kinds of things. I have a daughter in the Navy who I'm very proud of. I have a daughter who's a 911 operator in the DC area, and she's worked really hard to make sure that people are safe. And then I have 3 kids at home still, but one of them's enlisted in the Air Force. He's be leaving pretty soon. He's an Eagle Scout. He has a brother who's an Eagle Scout, who's a senior in high school, and I have a 9th grader, and he's a Boy Scout still. And, you know, I do a lot of things with scouting movement and trying to raise young people into being good adults.
I mean, that's our job.
Yeah, that's our job. And, you know, I think one of the cool things about the website is I get to meet a lot of young people who read my website. It's funny, I'm retired from the service. I've been retired 12 years now. Retired in 06, and I'll go back and visit folks, some of the units I was in or just out in the service, and it's so funny. I'll go visit, and I'm like, hey, what year did you get to the unit? And he'll tell me like 2014, and I'm like, what year did you come in the service? Well, I came in the service in 2010, and I'm like, wow, you know, I've been retired already at that point. It makes me feel kind of old, but I think we've got some great young Americans, both involved in the military, law enforcement, but also in our firearms industry, and they're innovating. And I was fortunate enough to meet some of the folks you have working for you, or young folks.
Yeah, we got an engineer here that's 23.
Right.
Well, I mean, holy shit. So when does that make him alive? Like 1805, so 1995, he was born.
So you think about that, you're like, wow. And so it's really cool to see the future of this industry moving forward. You know, a lot of people are worried about the future of the firearms industry and the future of supporting the Constitution and things like the Second Amendment, the First Amendment. But we get a lot of young Americans who are really switched on and understand the importance of those things.
Yeah.
And so my outlook for the future of America is very positive.
Well, yeah, I'm hopeful, and I think so. I mean, I think a lot of the, I didn't grow up the most conservative person in the world, but I do think the extreme liberals have gone so far as to turn a lot of young people conservative that maybe wouldn't be.
Lately, I think so. I agree with that. I agree. There's been some pretty wild thought processes going on.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that is exciting. Like, I've got 3 young children, raising them, and my oldest one is the age of your youngest one, and but I also my parents didn't dictate my path, and they're much more liberal than I am. And I chose it based on my experiences and, education and kind of how they led me. And I kind of, I try to do that with my kids. And, if they want to grow up to be liberal, that's their right. I try to show them all of it and, the lessons that I've learned. And, I'm very proud of my kids. Just the idea of being accountable for yourself. And that doesn't mean blaming inanimate objects like firearms. Well, Eric, thank you so much. Let's get some dinner.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it, man. It's fun talking to you. I've never told anybody about kind of the, publicly gone into the whole background of how the website started. Pretty interesting.
Well, I think it's interesting for me too. I hadn't heard some of that. I guess that's it. So good luck. So the website is soldiersystems.net. Jesus Christ.
I could get into that if you want to.
Oh.
But when I bought it, it was the only thing available. I bought soldiersystems.com.
.net. Eric is very old. It's a .net.
No,
Jesus Christ.
.com wasn't available when I bought it. It's really soldiersystems.com. Well, if it's going to send you to soldiersystems.net, you're not owned it longer.
Yes. Years ago, when I used to follow you and I would type in Soldier Systems in Google, it would bring up like all sorts of military things before it bring up your website. Now I type it in, your website's #1.
Hey,
so you've made
I'm #1 on top of Natick Soldier Systems Center that is a DoD activity. So that's pretty impressive to me.
Well, it's impressive to me too, I guess. Anyway, you're doing great work. Thank you for everything. You're always a delight, and I'm glad you're being successful.
We'll do this again and talk about military small arms.
Military. Oh yeah,
I love that.
We'll do that. We'll do that next. All right. Thanks a lot.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.